Hi, guys, and welcome back to the show. My name is Calvin True, and I am the host of this podcast. I'm also a performance and nutrition coach and a first year PhD student. So, before this episode just started, I was freaking out a little bit. So, if you're watching this on YouTube or through like Spotify, because on Apple, if you're listening to this on Apple, they don't show the video. So, if you didn't know, there's like a video of this on Spotify and YouTube. But I have this mic right here and I thought it was broken and it wasn't working. And for like 30, I'd say like 20 minutes. For like 20 minutes, I didn't know what was happening. And I thought I was going to have to grab these like AirPods, like just the ones where you clip into the computer and just the wire that I had to talk to them. And it wasn't going to sound the best. And yeah, but I figured out what was going on with my mic because and I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to audio engineering stuff. This mic connects to this interface thing, and one of the dials was turned all the way down and it wasn't picking up the sound. And then I flipped it and it finally worked. And I was like pressing buttons, I was like inserting it to different ports into the computer, checking all these things. I don't even know what I'm checking. I'm just playing out all the like possibilities, and I thought we were screwed until I did something like different and it worked because I don't really store this very well. I just throw it in my backpack and I just bring it and then we record. So we got that figured out. So hopefully the audio should sound normal because this is how I normally the thing I talk to. But yeah, so you guys know that I'm a little stressed out for that last like 20-ish minutes and then prepping this episode the last like 2.5 hours to really refine it. And I'm so excited about this one. But before that, one more update, two more things before we get into this episode. The first thing is I just finished my first class for my PhD program. Woohoo! It went okay. We did good. We got an A. First class out of the way. First class I have had in 4 years because I finished my master's in 2021. It is now 2025. So that was cool. It was a good confidence booster to get that first class out of the way because I was a bit stressed and just felt, it's been a hot minute. But besides that, that went well when it comes to like news. And the third thing is if you're not a subscriber, you better subscribe because if you're cool, then subscribe. Otherwise, you're just listening and not helping your boy out. Listening helps for sure, and like downloads and like stuff, but subscribing and sharing this and commenting, all that stuff really helps. Let me know if you are enjoying the episodes, if you are taking anything out of them, if they're teaching you something, new insights, perspective, or something you like share with people. All the engagement really helps this platform grow and helps me know that people want to listen and that my message is kind of coming across. So if you're not yet subscribed, be a homie or a homette and please subscribe and go to just find somebody like a friend or like a partner, significant other, and like hold the phone up to their face while they're sleeping and, go in and hit the follow button on all platforms and yeah. And then close the phone and don't do anything weird. Okay. So now that out of the way to the episode. So what is this episode? Why are we here? So this episode, it's like number 4 of the 4 episodes I'm doing when it comes to from like a very mindset and habit and behavior. The first one was very much on identity change. The second one was very much on values. Third one was on habits and environments. And this one is so much on the mindset resilience. So this is how you can build your like mental armor for yourself, shield, whichever one, because whenever there's a habit, a behavior transformation, a gap that we're trying to close, when we're trying to become more and doing all those things, there's a point that we all want to give up. And this makes me think of the new year like goals and resolutions. And there's an actual date. I think it's the first week of February. Like there's an actual Friday, like 4 weeks after or something, that they call it Quitter's Day. It's somewhere up there. And when I first heard of that last year, that made me really sad to think because that's just a sad thing. But it's very true. Many of us build like we have these goals and ambitions, but somewhere along the way, after that 2-3 week, whatever that high period, that activation of that like temporal landmark and doing with others, people end up falling. And then they go back and they kind of like blame themselves, being like, maybe I should have been more disciplined. Maybe I should have been better. Maybe if wasn't something wrong with me, I would be able to actually achieve my goals. Or people's minds goes to 1,000 different places. I'm no different. my mind goes the same. And so I really want to help you not give up. I want to really help you build that mental resilience, that mental capacity and strength and durability with yourself. And this isn't going to be like some David Goggins, like rah, like cliche motivational stuff, frou-frou things that you're going to just see on a poster of like a lion crouching through the safari with the motivational stuff saying, if you want this bad enough, you just have to want it. No, this is not where that's going to go. So this is going to draw on something that I'm actively working on, but also through actual neurobiology and psychology that I have learned over the years and that I use. And because even though I'm getting a PhD in human physiology, in like exercise and nutrition, all that stuff, I have to be able to apply these things when it comes to interacting with people. And so this is where all this stuff comes in. And so we're going to go through it. So probably the feelings that you're probably feeling is like, I feel like giving up, or like, how do I keep going? And when we think of people who are able to endure, they have that endurance component to them. They have that level of confidence and relentlessness and discipline. We want to look at them. And so first three categories of people I think of are people in the military space, the business, and the sports performance. So what makes them different, and how are they able to achieve such accolades, such like display such willpower in themselves and belief, and be able to just endure? And why do they not quit when so many of us quit when it comes to so many different things? And I wanted to take a look at it from two different levels. So one on the neuroscience perspective and one on the psychology perspective, because they're not they're not different, because they both play a factor. It's like ingredients all baked in that makes you you and why you do what you want to do. And so my thinking is, okay, so as I walk you through this, okay, so when I want to give up, when normal people want to give up, why do people give up? Well, people probably give up because they don't believe themselves. They're probably not feeling good. They're probably feeling burnt out. They're probably perceiving the fatigue as negative, and they start telling themselves different stories. And maybe it's their environment, maybe so many different things. We all have different reasons, different thoughts that kind of circle through our minds, and we keep replaying some of these things, and we end up giving up. We pull on past evidence that we do quit a lot, or maybe that we see other people doing things that are like light years ahead and we can never do it like them. Or maybe you see something that may take 10 years, multi-week, multi-month, multi-year goals, and you start believing that, oh, I can't do this. It's going to take so much time. I have all these things going on and I'm so far behind. How am I ever going to get there? And maybe you might have had people downplay you or talk down on you, told you that you can't do this, and you start believing those voices, and so many different things. Maybe you're also burnt out. Maybe the things that there's so many reasons why people give up on stuff, and each one of those reasons I gave you are levers that I'm gonna help you reframe each one of those. So I'm gonna walk you through this. So when it comes to people who are able to persevere, have resilience, and display that level of willpower to perform, or quote unquote be high performers, how do they do it? And so from a neuroscience perspective, I want to start with the AMCC. So the AMCC stands for the anterior mid cingulate cortex. So this is a region that sits in your prefrontal cortex, that sits on both sides. And so you can think of this as the actual physical spot where you harness willpower. And I want to start with this because for me, I was sitting with this thought, and this other creator, he said something about why do people need to know why? Why do people need to know the why before just doing? Shouldn't you just do it? And I understand that perspective, but for me, I love the phrase from Archimedes is, give me a place to stand on with a long enough fulcrum and I'll move the world. And with this, the way that I can have autonomy and agency and like belief in myself is that I like knowing the levers. I like to know what my options are, because there are options. There's always an option on the table that maybe you may not see. And so me learning about the AMCC, anterior mid-cingulate cortex, this is like an actual center, a hub, a circuitry of willpower. And by knowing that, that helps me create some type of mechanism in my mind that I can find these levers and I can pull on them, because then I can reframe these thoughts in my mind that I can, okay, if there's this, what are the mechanisms that fuel this function, the function of this component of my brain, so then I can do the thing. So with this, what is the MCC, the willpower place? So think of this as doing hard things. And so I'm going to use the example of, since I'm in the fitness space, using going to the gym. And so many people take pride in going to the gym, and it is a hard thing to do. Not enough people exercise, practice physical movement. But using me, for example, going to the gym 10 years ago, when I was like 18 or 17, just starting out, it was the hard thing for me. Learning how to lift weights, building the habits, rearranging my schedule, the planning, the whole thing. Going to the gym was the hard thing. But now, 10 years later, 13 years later, now going to the gym isn't the hard thing for me anymore. It might actually be the thing I'm using to avoid doing the hard thing. Like, say, prepping for this podcast, doing the back end work for my business, studying for maybe that's the certification at work, whatever the hard thing actually is. You may be using this as a avoidance tactic and masking it and crafting this narrative in your mind saying that this is the hard thing. And yes, going to the gym is hard, and you can gain external validation from others, because it's different than, say, like you sitting on your couch or at home just doom scrolling on your phone. That if anyone sees that, they're going to maybe label you, or maybe you notice that, and you will label yourself as lazy, as you don't want this enough, and then you'll feel some type of way about it. But if you say that you're just going to the gym, but maybe that's the thing that's not that hard for you, it's already built into your habits, your routine. It's pretty automatic for you already. Yes, objectively, from a physical exertion, it's still hard, whether you're strength training or doing cardio, but you're using it to avoid. And so this is where the AMCC comes in. Think of this as the circuitry part of your brain that lights up whenever you do something that's actually hard. So 10 years ago, the AMCC in my brain lit up. It just lit up, and it connected and started like opening the gates for all those other neurotransmitters to come out. So the other neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins. How you can define those neurotransmitters to make sure that we're all on the same page. Think of dopamine as the energy, kind of that feeling, the anticipation, the rush, the motivation that you get to do something and afterwards. Serotonin, that's a neurotransmitter that influences how you feel, like you're feeling good about something. And then oxytocin is that feeling good, but as you bind yourself to something. So, like you and your partner, when you go hang out with your girlfriend or boyfriend, husband, wife, with like another person, you get like a level of oxytocin that rises because you're feeling good spending time with them, but it's attached to that other person. I'm giving a very simplistic definition of this here. And then endorphins, think of that as like that feel good neurotransmitter that you feel that kind of blunts some of the pain. So think of like runner's high, that you may have heard that from people who run. They're on mile 10 or 12 and they don't even feel any pain or fatigue or things anymore because they're in that runner's high. They fall into this like flow state and they don't feel much of everything else because it's been dampened. So neurotransmitter there. But going back to the AMCC, it's like, okay, it perceives all the things that are actually hard. It lets go of some of these neurotransmitters. But now, since going to the gym isn't that hard thing for me anymore, it gets this going to the gym, that behavior gets thrown to the back of my head, to the cerebellum, to the basal ganglia, and that is more of the habit circuitry of your brain. And so now that going to the gym is more of a automatic behavior and a automatic habit thing that I do, it doesn't light up that AMCC anymore, because for you to do that, it has to actually be something that is hard. It will monitor what actually requires effort from you. It'll detect what actually is like you experience conflict from it. It needs to actually be the thing, like doing the actual thing. This is where it lights up. And what they've noticed in high performers is that those who are those high performers, their AMCC circuitry is a lot more heightened, it's a lot more efficient, and the activation of it and the connectivity of it is much more sensitive and efficient. And so that's where you can think of the willpower. So it's really cool, and I'm still chewing through this thought, but I really wanted to share this. So if you think about it, it's like, okay, it's a daily deposit. It gets dampened, like turned down every single day. So you have to consistently pay rent, pay the entrance fee, the deposit to to build that portion of your willpower. And the way you'd build it is by repeated exposure to the thing that actually is hard for you. So maybe that's going to the gym. Maybe that's having those hard conversations. Maybe it's waking up early. Maybe it's whatever that thing is. So I think that's really cool there. And then so now with that, it moves laterally towards some of the psychology stuff. And so it goes into, I like to think about or look at the angle of like belief. Okay. So maybe one of the things that these high performers, how are they able to do things? How are they able to endure? And why do they not give up? How do they keep going? And maybe, yes, from the neuroscience perspective, they've built that part of their brain, but now it's entangled with the psychology component. So let's talk about belief. That's one of the big things that hold people back, is because people aren't confident. They don't believe that they can do something. And so belief in the psychology world, it's known as self-efficacy. So self-efficacy has the levers of self-efficacy is mastery experience, vicarious experience, verbal persuasion, and physiological state. And now what each one of those components are. So from top down, this is going to be the most potent one, the most effective lever. So when you think about self-efficacy and your belief, the definition of that is believing that you can and that you will do a certain behavior. So you have to believe that you can do it, and you have to believe that you will do it. So the can and the will are two components of that definition that my professor back in school like really drilled in my head since freshman year. And so just because you can do something doesn't mean that you will. So it's like twofold. And I really like that. It's like the belief and then the actual act of doing it. So mastery experience, think of that as the receipts. And so the phrase I like to repeat to myself or I tell others is, you've done hard things before. So you have to be able to pull back on the receipts, pull out the receipts of all the hard things you've ever done and remind yourself that you can do hard things. So maybe there's a new skill that you were trying to pick up, a new habit that you were trying to form, a new career path that you were trying to build for yourself, whatever those things may be. And you're going to be met with resilience from yourself because now you're resetting the game from zero. And you can feel some type of way about it because maybe you're older now, or you have this belief that saying that you should be farther, you should feel embarrassed, whatever those things are. And the thought that comes to my mind is, not every thought is real and not every emotion is a command. It's something I repeatedly remind myself and I remind my clients when the situation warrants it. And so if I'm working on pulling that belief lever, those receipts, pull back on all the evidence that you've done hard things. So maybe you took some time off from the gym, from working out, and now you're doing it again. You can pull back on the receipts of, I've done this before. Who says I can't do this again? And boom, right there, there's that connection. And then maybe you can draw a little more laterally. Maybe you're trying to form a new habit or a career pivot or do something else that's hard for yourself, but maybe you don't have any receipts in that specific domain, vertical, but you can pull laterally, reminding yourself that you've done other hard things. This is no different. What makes this any different than these other things? Maybe it's something you've never done before, but so has some of those other things you've done and endured and adversities you had to face or persevere through. You've had to go through hard things before. So this is no different. And one of the things I like, for examples for me, is I remind myself, well, my parents went through a divorce when I was a kid. I saw the separation. My father, who I thought was my father, he was abusive towards me. And I overcame those things. And I overcame other challenges. I overcame moving every single year through my childhood. I being the new kid, being just different, having to restart over and over, having to do all these different things. And all the other adversities and setbacks I had to overcome. And so anytime I'm trying to do something new that's hard, that's different, yes, maybe I don't have any experience or specific skill to that, but I can draw on other things of I've learned how to navigate feeling like poo poo. I've learned how to navigate feeling like just so many all these different things. So this is no different because I am better. If anything, I'm even more equipped now. You're more equipped. I'm older. I have more experience. I have even more skills in my pile. I have more receipts of evidence that I have overcame hard things through a array of different conditions and feelings I felt in different stages of life. So if anything, I am more equipped now to face these new these new hard. And so why can't I believe in myself? So right there. So if you can learn how to remember those things, that really helps you not give up. And so now moving to the next part of that self-belief concept is vicarious experience. So the phrase that I say to myself is, if they can do it, why not you? Why not you? So many times we create this internal glass ceilings for ourselves of we can't do it because of X, because of Y. Why did you limit yourself like that? Why are you putting a ceiling over yourself? Why are you capping yourself at how far you can move in life? How much money you can make? How far big you can dream? Why are you holding yourself back? And the only person holding you back is you. And why are you letting other people's voices or perceptions or thoughts dictate how big you can dream, what you can or cannot do? Nobody can tell you what you can or cannot do. Only you can. And so I always love that. And the way that I can see this is looking at others. So you can think of this as, for example, you're in a CrossFit gym, so like a group fitness class gym, and say you've never done that exercise, that modality, that type of training before. And maybe you're just very new to exercise, but you can go in that gym and see there's other people doing this. This person looks like me. This person's also in their 20s or 30s, or this person who's in their 80s in here kicking butt and whatever. And again, that modeling from others, that comparison, there's a phrase here that people throw around. Comparison is a thief of joy. And I like to take that another layer deeper of I don't think comparison inherently as like a black and white statement like robs you of your joy. I think it's the expectation is where the thief comes in. And it depends on how you do all this. So like if I compare myself to another, like say I'm trying to build my business right now and I'm 29 years old, but I see another person also in their 20s who is relatively similar to me and they're also building their business, but they're 3 to 4 steps ahead. That I can view that from an angle of what's the word here I'm looking for? Like pulling themselves down. I'm trying to rationalize why I can't do it and why they were able to do it. It's almost like I'm taking like a victim perspective here rather than oh my God, how did they do it? What are the breadcrumbs? I got to go talk to this person. What did they learn that I don't know? What skills have they refined that I haven't refined yet? What is it like? How are they able to do it? Because if they were able to do it, why not me? And another phrase that kind of pissed people off a little bit, or it might not, it depends on the person how it comes, but like the phrase I love is there's somebody out there who is dumber, who's had more disadvantages than you, and they've gone further. And I'm like, man, okay. Resetting realities here, because yeah. So what makes me any different? We're all human beings. Yes, maybe we all had different advantages and disadvantages when we were like cards that were dealt with when we started the game, when we came into the world. At the end of the day, it's still like you get to choose what actions you take. And I don't want to live by wearing a victim hat or a just want to craft some type of narrative of why they were able to do it and I can't. That doesn't serve me well. And who cares? Like, who cares if, like, yes, maybe you did have really bad cards dealt to you, maybe whatever, but do you want to live by that? Do you want to like wear that and like, or do you want to, you know what? Who cares? What's next? What's next? This is where I'm at. What are my options? What are the cards do I have? How can I play? What cards can I play? And how can I get a better hand? How can I move forward with what I got? How can I be resourceful? How can I be scrappy? And so that's where if you can look at others and see how others are able to do it, it can help reinforce that belief in yourself that if they can do it, why not you? And this segues perfectly to verbal persuasion. So this is where there's a internal and external component to this. And so the external part of like people encouraging you and using just like reaffirming things to you, like saying, good job, you're doing great. Just getting that feedback from others is super helpful, like positive stuff. So encourage and really recognize other people. And then the internal part is recognizing yourself and reminding yourself that you can do hard things and that you don't quit, and reaffirming and realigning yourself with the identity of who you say you are and of who you are trying to become. And that's very powerful right there. And so the inner self-talk is something, it's a really underrated thing that people don't talk about enough. And I think this is one of the reasons why those high performers, high people are able to achieve things, get so far, is because the one person that you have to spend the most time with is yourself. And so if you're going to spend the most time with yourself and your thoughts, you might as well make that conversation, that inner talk, be positive, be something that facilitates your growth. Because if you're just going to dog on yourself, if you're just going to put yourself down over and over and over, then you've lost. Because it doesn't matter how much positive encouragement you get from others or feedback, or it doesn't matter what anybody says to you. If you don't believe it, and if your inner record, the inner soundtrack inside your mind is telling you you can't do it, you're a loser, you will never get anywhere, why even bother? You should just give up. There's no point. Why are you trying? Sit down and just stop trying, because you will never be able to do it and somebody else will. That doesn't serve you well at all. That doesn't help you in anything. If anything, that's just going to not make you feel good. And if you don't feel good, you won't want to do anything. And if you don't do anything, or if you just dampen your own light, then you're just going to be stuck. And the only way for you to get unstuck is you have to talk to yourself in a positive way. You got to talk to yourself like you even give a shit, like you even care about yourself. Because you wouldn't be sitting with your friends and tell them that they can't do things. Like they're dreaming so big and they have all these goals and they're trying all these things and they're trying to improve and build themselves. And you wouldn't sit there and just knock them down 24/7, because if you do that, they wouldn't want to be friends with you. And you wouldn't want somebody doing that to you either. And so this is where you got to learn how to talk to yourself, remind yourself, start changing that inner narrative, become friends with yourself, become like mutual coworkers with yourself. Because from the day that you're born to the day that you die, the one person that's going to be with you always is yourself. You were going to be with yourself more than any other person on this planet. So you might as well learn how to live with yourself, learn how to be okay with yourself, learn how to talk to yourself like you give a damn. Because I think that's one of the biggest things. One of the biggest like underrated levers that people are not pulling is the way they talk to themselves. So that's verbal persuasion. And the way that you can really facilitate that environment is you got to give yourself a fighting chance. And this leads to the fourth lever of self-efficacy, is physiological state. And I like to delineate this down to the internal and external component. So give yourself a fighting chance, because you're not giving yourself a fighting chance to succeed if you're not eating well, if you're underslept, if you're not managing your stress, if you're not talking to yourself well, if you're not listening to good content, if you're not surrounded by people that believe in you or people who are achieving, or if you're just surrounding yourself in an environment where people are just complaining and bitching and think the whole world's against them and that they can never get any further because they have this ailment or they have this disadvantage or whatever. Even if things are valid, who cares? Like, who cares? What do you gain by feeling worse about yourself? Like, I know I'm not the only one who's had chaos in their family or daddy issues. Like, does it serve me? Does it move me any further towards the life I want, the person I want to become, or anything if I just sat here and I just said, yep, my dad left and he was abusive and I am this and that. I can't get any further. I failed a couple classes here and there and I can't get further. I only make this much money. I can't make it any further. I live in the Midwest. I will never make it to the bigger cities and to be able to make more money. Or I am this short. I can't get girls. Or I am not smart enough. I'm not qualified for this job. if you keep labeling yourself with those identity of you can't and this and that, you're gonna get nowhere. And so this is where you gotta make yourself you gotta feel good, because if you're only sleeping like also 5 hours a night, eating like shit, eating like an asshole, not moving, like doom scrolling, sitting inside, engaging with content online that just engages you in a negative way, that just pisses you off, just consuming instead of creating or taking action or doing anything, then of course you're not going to make it anywhere. You're not going to be a high performer. You're not going to level up. You're not going to upgrade. You're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to keep digging that hole and just burying yourself in it. And so to have belief in yourself is you got to give yourself a fighting chance. You got to remind yourself and talk to yourself like you care and love and give a damn about yourself. And you got to remind yourself that if others can do it, why not you? Remove that glass ceiling and remember the receipts that you can do hard things and that you can do it again, because this is no different. And maybe you don't have the best resources, everything around you, but as you get better, you get better. And this phrase I love hearing from Alex Hormozy, it's like the hero's journey. At the very beginning, it's you with a stick against a dragon, against a bear. But the better you get, the more you start believing yourself, the more your skills, the more you advance through the levels, the monsters are still there, but you become so much more equipped. You become so much more skilled. It's now you with a missile, with a nation of military behind you going to war against the monster. And the monsters are always the same. They don't get bigger, but you get better. And so I love that reframe of you can get better. You just have to remind yourself these things of you can do hard things. If others can do it, why not you? You can do hard things. You don't quit, and you got to give yourself a fighting chance. And so those are the self-belief levers. And so the next component of why people give up, I think it has to do with burnout. And I didn't know that burnout had 3 different levers until I was listening to this book from Ali Abdaal. The book is called Feel Good Productivity. And I was listening to this. I'm rereading it right now through audiobooks, because that's the best way for me to consume text, and it works with me. So in his book, he breaks down burnout. So energy levers. Burnout, you can break that down to 3 different categories. And so the category number 1 is overexertion. So think of that as you are overreaching. You are putting too much on your plate and you are just overpromising, and you just can't be everything and do everything. And then there's the depletion burnout. Maybe that one is where the workload is manageable, but you're not recharging yourself. You're not taking the time to actually rest and recover. Maybe you're resting by doing things like scrolling your phone, watching TV, stuff like that. And you're not really recharging yourself, not sleeping enough, not eating well, not taking care of yourself. And so this is where maybe you need to recharge yourself by doing things that actually fill your cup, that really, maybe you need to do something creatively. Maybe you need to actually go outside and move, get away from a screen, do things that actually recharge your energy, instead of it just keeps you depleted. And so the first one is overexertion, the second one is depletion, and the third one is misalignment. Maybe the thing that you're doing is not aligned with your values, with the person who you want to be. And this one, actually, if you guys are wondering, if you're watching the screen, I have like all of my notes on this whiteboard. So I'm just looking back at it for reference, so I can make this like smoother for you guys. But the misalignment one, I can talk about that because that was a huge burnout with me in my last job. I was working at a hospital as an exercise physiologist with bariatric patients, and I didn't like my role there or my work there. I only stayed for the money, for the paycheck to get me out of debt and to support my life, and as I built everything else. And the way that it wasn't aligned is I felt like my work there was meaningless. It didn't feel like I was getting across to my patients at all. It just, the conditions and the environment of my coworkers there, it was misaligned, and I didn't feel valued. I felt like I'm just wasting my breath. I am exerting myself so much here to where I have no creative energy to pour into me actually building like my podcast, my content, my business with my clients, working with them. I felt like I had nothing, and a cascade of that stuff. So maybe the thing that you're doing is not aligned. Maybe a couple things that you're doing is not aligned and it's draining you. So those are a couple of the different burnout levers when thinking about it. And so maybe why you're giving up is maybe really sit with that. Sit with that. Really take an audit of where is your energy going? How is it leaking? Are you recharging yourself? Are you spending time around others who are like being energy vampires, sapping it out of you? Are you overreaching? Are you not actually recharging? Maybe you're doing is not aligned, and so it's quote unquote it's hard, but you're doing something that's not in line with your values, your identity, who you are, your meaning, your purpose, your mission. And maybe that's why you're not able to get so as far, because it's just not meaningful enough for you to be on this path to pursue it. So big deep questions questions to sit with. And so recap this whole thing. Now it's like, okay, now if you feel like giving up and you don't know how to keep going, look into some of those your belief buckets, those levers. Where in those levers are you not pulling? And then the burnout. And are you actually doing the hard thing? Are you just avoiding it? And another angle to attack is of the psychology is fatigue, right? And so maybe you're feeling fatigued. Maybe that's not that something is wrong. Like, how do I want to say this? It's how do I want to go about this here? Think of fatigue as signal. Think of a check engine light on the dashboard and on the dashboard of your car. The check engine light comes on, and it's not like something where you have to like freak out, but it's a signal that something is off. Something is off, and that you have to address it and investigate and figure out what's going on, because it's going to become a problem long term. And so maybe this is where you got to investigate the fatigue of why are you feeling fatigued? Maybe it's not because something's wrong with the work or the path you're on. Maybe it's going back to the feeling good, your foundations. Maybe you're not sleeping enough, and maybe that's causing you to have lower energy. Maybe it's causing you to have more negative thoughts. Maybe you're not emotionally or mentally as durable or resilient. Those negative thoughts chatter in the background and start to get a little louder. And so that's a signal, because maybe you notice some days you're able to push farther, you have more energy, you're able to go further. It's because you support yourself more. And this is a signal telling you that you gotta investigate an area that you're letting slip. And so a thought that I also think about thinking is, depending on like, if you have a really big goal, if there's like a really big push or season or chapter in your life, and maybe it's going to demand a lot out of you. And if it's something that demands and requires a lot out of you, more than something else, then you have to be able to raise that level of support. Like if you were trying to go back to school, go back to school or get the certification while working full time, or being a parent and doing all these different things, and you're trying to juggle a lot of different stuff, and you're like sleeping 5 hours a night, you're not going outside and moving and recharging yourself, and you're just not doing things that will support that level of demand, that level of exertion from you, you're not setting the conditions or the environment for you to progress forward. Does that make sense? Like if you have to raise that level of support. Like if you're going to raise the level of demand and expenditure out of yourself, equally you have to raise that bar of support to support that level of exertion. Because at some point you're going to burn out, and that burnout maybe is that overreaching, maybe is so that's kind of see how the neuroscience and then the psychology part all comes in to how people are able to keep going and never give up. And then the last part that I want to add is maybe they know who they are. They have a vision for themselves. They know what the mission is, what their purpose is, whether it's in athletics, sports, in a military setting, in a business setting, they have a vision. They believe in the mission. They believe in their purpose. They believe in who they are. They have rooted themselves so deeply into their values. They know who they want to show up as. They know who they are. They know who they're trying to become. And by reminding themselves of that mission, of that vision for themselves, of where they're going, even when those moments of they're tired, they start to not believe themselves. They start to limit themselves. They start to, whatever those things are, they tie themselves so deeply into that vision, to that identity, into their core values, tenets, creed, that they can endure. They keep going because they've learned how to remember and keep on pulling on any of those levers that I've talked about to keep moving forward. And it's not like a switch for each one of these. It's more like a dial. And how you fluctuate and push one of these dials is going to be, and like will help support whatever those moments are. So that's the conclusion of this. And so I really, really hope me going into a lot of the hows and the behind the scenes of this I really hope this episode helped you and that you were able to take something out of this to build that mental and emotional armor for yourself. And you believe that you just believe in yourself more, and that this helps you not give up. It helps you keep going. We did it. So I would love to hear your guys' thoughts, if this landed well with you, if there was something out of this that you took out of it. We'd love to know. Would love to. Yeah, just thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening, if you've listened this far. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, leave a comment, share this with a friend, share this on your story, tag me on whatever social platform that I know that you took something out of this. But yeah, I was really excited about this. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you guys in the next one.